What is self-directed learning anyway? And you may have heard this term floating around more lately, especially since the pandemic. Families are being forced to kind of take schooling home, and so they're starting to look at what does this look like, and what are my children actually learning in school. Self-directed learning, when you look it up on the internet, there's a few different things that come up. But I think one of the things that is that it's really about is ownership. And I'm not talking about keeping up with the Joneses kind of ownership, not that kind.
Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that?
We've ultimately been taught to believe that there's a teacher or a leader that's going to shape our learning. But what if it was up to the children to decide what do they want to learn? When and how do they thrive? Just think about that for a second. To me, self-directed learning is more like a philosophy of learning that can come in many different shapes. It's really about personalization over standardization. So it's finding ways in which we feel alive and thrive, where we honor our strengths, we see what we're motivated by, and what environments we work well in. And then we do more of that. We create an environment for learning that we can thrive in so that we as a person can flourish. Self-directed is more about personalization than standardization. Now, there are many benefits to this approach, but I think the three that I've noticed the most in our children and in our family are these three. So the first is self-awareness, the second is intrinsic motivation, and the third is enjoyment. So the first one, self-awareness, I think is a big one. I think I've noticed for myself and just in general that I think we've really gotten quite distant from ourselves, our bodies. You know, we tend to look externally for how to do things, how to move through things, what to do next. And this self-awareness allows us to really dive deep and really listen to our bodies and our thoughts and really try to understand how we individually thrive as a person. What are we motivated by? You know, when does our body feel good? You know, our eating habits, our sleeping habits. You know, when do we feel motivated, engaged? When are we getting frustrated? You know, do I like to work in a group or with a couple of people or alone? You know, it's trying to find this, and we can only do that by being aware, by being self-aware, by noticing things in ourselves as we engage in different activities and being able to say, yeah, I like that, I was frustrated with that, this made me feel this was my experience. And this constant development of our own self-awareness really guides our learning and really guides us in life. The second one is intrinsic motivation, and I think we have gotten used to this idea that children need to be, well, people need to be baited by, you know, gold stars or rewards or threatened with punishment. But these are all external motivators. But what you see in self-directed learning is because they're choosing their activities, they're doing it because they want to. They're doing it because it's interesting, it's relatable, it's meaningful to them. And when you do that, you have an inner desire, and that's what's called intrinsic motivation. And the third one is enjoyment. I think when we're doing something that we love, we're interested in, again, it's meaningful and relatable, we enjoy it. We enjoy ourselves. We put everything of ourselves into the project, and I think that makes a huge difference, not only in our own enjoyment, but also working with others, collaborating with others. It makes a big difference, and I think the idea that enjoyment should be a part of learning and growing, that it doesn't, this is important, it doesn't need to be stressful and painful. We should try and make it more playful and more enjoyable and look at these learning and growing and developing as a very positive way of moving through life. Now, I know I get the question that it's like, yeah, not everything in life is fun, and I get that. But shouldn't we try to make it as enjoyable as possible? I mean, isn't that the goal in life, ultimately, is to make it as enjoyable as possible? And sure, there's challenges, and sure, there's frustrations, but we can take that back then to our self-awareness, to really understanding ourselves and how we can move through it. But ultimately, we're looking to enjoy and to really bring that enjoyment to learning for our children. So ultimately, our family took a leap into self-directed learning about 7 years ago. And these were some of the key things that I've noticed in our kids and in our family, is this self-awareness, this intrinsic motivator, and just this real, true, pure enjoyment. So ultimately, self-directed learning is about individualization or personalization rather than standardization. And we're really always moving towards how can we thrive. And I think thriving had a certain normal for the last number of decades, where normal looked like, fitting within the box, kind of following these norms, working a 9 to 5, coloring within the lines, really, answering the question that the teacher asked. But I think as we evolve as humans and society evolves, we start to see this new way of thriving. And to me, this new way of thriving is more like creating your own box, recognizing that, hustling and pushing isn't worth it if it's at the expense of our health and well-being. So it's finding this state of flow and engagement rather than forcing it. It's, not necessarily only answering the question the teacher asks, but asking your own questions. It's critical thinking, it's curiosity, wondering, innovation. It's coloring outside the lines. And of course, there's rules for a reason, but there's also challenges to these rules that move society and humanity forward with new ways and innovative ways. And through all the research that we've done, we're moving towards a direction so that we can thrive as humans. So maybe these are the new norms. I mean, if there's a normal at all, because to me, self-directed learning is about personalization over standardization. If you find this interesting, please subscribe here. We'll dive into parenting, families, and just human flourishing. We'll dig, we'll ask questions, we'll wonder, and we'll discover these things together. I'm Janine from Her Mindful Life. Thanks for watching.